Aleister Crowley, Revolt of the Magicians. Lon Milo DuQuette and James M. Bratkowski. Now, this particular book, okay, is 21 years old, or at least that's the publication date of the book. Prior to that, several years prior to that, Mr. Bratkowski, who's in the film industry, hired me to write a screenplay story about Aleister Crowley, a fantasy story about Aleister Crowley. With his able help and the final draft program, computer program, I hammered out the story, and with Jim's help, we put it into sort of cinematic context. It was a pay for or work for hire thing. I was happy to do it. Of course, I always need money. And that was that. And I didn't think very much was going to come from it. But because no film project has ever worked out for me, really. But anyway, actually, it got legs, and it got optioned by a film company. And the wonderful Mr. Alan Rickman signed a letter of intent to play Crowley, but of course nothing ever came of it. Then a few years later, there was interest in it from a Canadian film company who was working with the UK Film Council, and but the screenplay writer, in order for them to get the UK Film Council funding, had to be a British citizen, and but they made the offer that if I would convert the screenplay into a novel, they could adopt the novel and give the points. I've explained this before. Give the points to the author of the book. So that's how the book came to be. All I had to do was transform the screenplay into a novel. This is the novel, okay? And it came out 21 years ago, about today, okay? Here's the back of it. And I'm going to just share a bonbon from it this morning, just for your amusement. Between the darkness and the light stands Aleister Crowley. That's the come on at the back there. The authors want to make it perfectly clear that this is a work of fiction, a fantasy, in fact. We wrote it to be interesting and thought-provoking, but first and foremost, we wrote it to be entertaining and fun. Many of the main characters of our story, including our protagonist, Aleister Crowley, and our antagonists, McGregor Mathers, Moina Mathers, and the supporting cast, W.B. Yeats, Maud Gonne, Annie Horniman, George Cecil Jones, Alan Bennett, Florence Farr, Bram Stoker, and Wynne Westcott, are indeed historical characters of note who lived and breathed and populated the generic milieu in which our story takes place. Some of them at times may have actually interacted with each other in situations perhaps not too dissimilar to how we have presented in a few scenes of our story. That, however, is where all similarity to objective reality and empirical history concerning these individuals ends. In the 100 years since the scenes in which most of our story unfolds, these individuals and their names have become to a small but enthusiastic subculture of the Western magical traditions, most of whom are watching right now. Look around. You might be it. They've become Legends, magical archetypes, fairy tale caricatures bearing little or no true resemblance to the flesh and blood individuals. The authors are confident that the reader, having been thusly forewarned, will be able to glean truth from fantasy and enjoy this fairy tale and its characters unencumbered by doubts about its historical veracity. We're going to open with a scene a day or so after Crowley's funeral. And it's in the home, the drawing room of the home of Frida Lady Harris, who is hosting a lavish curry wake for Crowley and for the guests that attended Crowley's funeral and for his London disciples. A film writer from Hollywood who is an OTO member of the Los Angeles OTO and a Crowley student has traveled to London in December of 1947 and attended the funeral, and he is anxious to attend the Curry wake because he heard that Sir Francis Bendick, famous film director, British film director, aging, who's also a disciple of Crowley's, was going to be in attendance, and he wanted to interview Sir Francis for details because Harland, the Hollywood screenwriter, wants to interview him for a movie that he wants to write about Aleister Crowley. And so the two of them are sequestered while everybody else is eating in the drawing room. And that's where I'm going to just pick up for a moment here. I believe you're sincere, the old man says. I believe you're talented, and I believe you can do it. That is write the Crowley movie. I know for a fact, however, if you try to produce the film you think you want to make, your project will fail miserably. You will fail miserably. The world is not ready for this story. And it certainly cannot be told in the way you think you want to tell it. Listen to me, I will be dead within the week. The handful of disciples in that dining room out there will grow old and die. Before the cock crows thrice, most of them will deny the master and try to get on with their lives. Aleister Crowley and his work will nearly be forgotten for the next 20 years or so. There's nothing you or I can do about it. I was stunned, angry. These were the words of a depressed, bitter old man. I wasn't going to let this old magician with no future tell me about mine. I wasn't going to tell him so, but that's what I was thinking. He paused for a moment and sat back in his chair. I squirmed a little when I realized he had heard my thoughts. I know how the future will unfold. Crowley and I discussed it at great length. Discussed you at great length a fortnight ago. Hear me, Milo Harland, that's his name. You will write a screenplay, a marvelous work, and I will help you write it. Tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night, I will help you. It will be made into a film, a feature film. It'll be a modest financial success for nearly everyone involved in the project. But more importantly, it will endure. It will succeed in introducing the world to Aleister Crowley and the master he became. Succeed in capturing the spiritual imagination of those in every generation to follow, those who are ready to hear it. It will become the wonder story of a new era of human consciousness. He sat back in his chair and smiled most warmly. However, neither you nor I will see the film made. At least not in our present incarnations. That did it. I didn't care if this old fart could read my mind. I didn't care if he glowed like a Roman candle. He's barking mad. I now only hoped I could at least scrape together a usable interview out of the old fool before he dropped dead. I cleared my throat and tried to sound like a movie producer. Yes. Well, be that as it may, Sir Francis, I needed to ask you a few questions about Crowley's life to help me get some facts straight. I want my work to be as historically accurate as possible. You haven't heard a word I said, Brother Harland. This was the first time he addressed me as brother. As we were both initiates of the Sovereign Sanctuary of Crowley's Magical Fraternal Order, I was now obliged by solemn oaths too terrible to repeat to respect his entreaty and at least hear him out. This story is bigger than the life of just one man, even a man as big and as great as Aleister Crowley. This story can't be told as a history because truth cannot be revealed in history. Objective reality is a very small reality. This story spans multiple lives and dimensions and centuries. It has to be told as a fairy tale, a myth, because fairy tales and myths are truer than history. Truer than objective reality. They endure. They outlive history. He leaned forward and placed his hand on my knee and gently patted it. Please, Brother Harland, fetch your pad and pencil and allow me to tell you a fairy tale. Okay. That sort of sets the stage. And the whole thing is told sort of as a draft, a film treatment of a screenplay with Sir Francis Bendick, the director, dictating it to Milo Harland. We're going to skip ahead a lot of things, but I just wanted to read one little bonbon chapter. Chapter 6. We're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. Exterior night shot of the Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris. New words appear on the screen. Père Lachaise Cemetery, Paris, 12 years later, and it's 12 years after the last scene, which was of MacGregor Mathers and Moina Mathers in the British Museum and getting the cipher manuscripts. And so it's a cool story. Okay. Anyway, close-up of a brass plaque. Nothing is written on it. The brass plaque has been attached to conceal the genitals of the statue of a sculpted angel that adorns the tomb of Oscar Wilde. A laborer with a hammer and chisel, is in the process of removing it. A clean-shaven Aleister Crowley, wearing a cape, stands behind the laborer. It is late at night. They are alone in the cemetery. The camera pans down to the words engraved upon the monument. And alien tears will fill for him pity's long broken urn. For his mourners will be outcast men, and outcasts always mourn. Crowley is talking to the hired laborer, but it's obvious the man does not understand a word of English. Here lies Oscar Wilde, mon ami. Until I was born, he was the world's greatest wit. The laborer looks back for a moment at Crowley and grunts. He returns to his work. As the chink of the chisel continues, Crowley begins to talk to the tomb. The toast of the literary world, crushed to death for loving the love that dare not speak its name. As Crowley continues, we see a close-up of the plaque as it is about to come off, revealing the angel's penis and testes. Even the good people of Paris think they can cover the shame of the world. With the last few chinks, the plaque falls off, exposing the stone genitals. The laborer hands the plaque to Crowley. Crowley gives him a few coins. The man runs away into the night. Crowley looks at the plaque, then looks up at the face of the stone angel. Yes, Oscar, we are all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. He flips the plaque over in his hands and smiles. I know just the person to present this to. The brass plaque morphs into the large brass plaque displaying the words Café Royale. It's mounted on a brick facade of a fashionable building in London. Exterior shot of the Café Royale. The cafe is brightly lit. People in evening dress, gentlemen in top hats, white gloves, canes, etc., are strolling in front of the cafe. Carriages pick up and drop off their fares, clip, clop, and all of that. Interior shot of the Café Royale. At a conspicuous table sits Jacob Epstein, 55, and a male dining companion. Both are dressed in evening attire and seem to be enjoying an after-dinner cognac and conversation. Epstein's companion seems a bit upset. My God, Jacob, they can't do that to you. It's an insult. You are one of the most celebrated sculptors in the world. They didn't do it to me, Epstein laughs. They did it to my angel on Oscar Wilde's tomb. A committee of some sort deemed it too indecent. What can I do? I've already been paid. There's a sound of a commotion near the door of the cafe. Nearly every head turns to see Aleister Crowley sweep into the room. He is wrapped in a hooded cape of deep purple. It flows dramatically behind him. Crowley approaches Epstein's table and stops directly in front of him. Crowley's eyes are frighteningly mad with excitement. Mr. Epstein? The dining room falls silent as all eyes turn to Crowley. He loves it. Mr. Epstein, I've just returned from Paris with a gift for you. Crowley parts his cape. Viewed from the back, we see nothing but the open cape. From Epstein's point of view, we see that Crowley is completely nude, except for shoes, stockings with suspenders, and the brass plaque from Oscar Wilde's tomb tied around his waist and dangling strategically over his genitals, exactly as it once did on Epstein's sculpture. Epstein is at first mortified, but when he stops to see the plaque, he breaks into a broad smile. Joining in the fun, he pulls the bow of the ribbon, releases the plaque, and catches it. Shot from the back, we assume that Crowley is now completely uncovered. He keeps his cape open for what seems an uncomfortably long time. Epstein stands and offers a slight but elegant nod of appreciation. "Why, thank you. Thank you very much indeed." He glances for a moment at Crowley's nakedness, then smiles warmly. "You'll forgive me if I don't offer you my hand." Crowley dramatically closes his cape, whirls around, and then exits towards the back of the cafe, his cape flowing flamboyantly behind him. Everyone in the room begins to talk at once. Epstein sits back down and is immediately accosted by his dinner companion. "My God, Jacob, who the devil?" "Who the devil, indeed. That's my friend, Aleister Crowley. He's quite a good poet and an excellent mountaineer." Epstein looks at the plaque and smiles. He also fancies himself something of a black magician. I believe he thought he was being invisible again. Okay, that's our bonbon from the novel. That was a screenplay that was a novel, so it could be a screenplay, so it again can probably be. Actually, there's some interest in it once again, but I think like Sir Francis Bendick told Milo Harlan, yeah, it'll be made into a movie, but neither you and I will live to see it. At least not in this incarnation. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.